What if I told you that the fate of two men, separated by thousands of miles, locked in different prisons, accused of different crimes, could ignite one of the biggest political and legal earthquakes Africa has ever seen? In the shadows of courtroom walls in Finland and diplomatic corridors in Kenya, something powerful is unfolding. A Kenyan court just ruled that Nnamdi Kanu was illegally abducted, yes, kidnapped, from Kenya to Nigeria, and now a high-level delegation is in Abuja to clean up the mess. Meanwhile, in icy Finland, Simon Njoku Ekpa faces secretive new charges, but not for terrorism, this time for violating the Lawyers Act in a twist no media outlet even dared to report. And just when you thought this couldn't get more explosive, an ex-soldier drops a chilling bombshell. He says he saw someone impersonate Muhammadu Buhari. This is no longer just about two activists. This is about global law, broken systems, suppressed people, and the rising roar for justice. Why is Finland refusing to extradite Simon Ekpa? Why is the International Criminal Court suddenly paying attention? And why are Biafran voices now louder than ever? Because the silence has shattered. The world is watching, and history is knocking. Will the door finally open? A high-level Kenyan delegation is in Abuja to meet with the Nigerian federal government following a Kenyan court ruling that declared Nnamdi Kanu's extradition to Nigeria illegal. The court ordered diplomatic engagement with Nigeria and compensation to Nnamdi Kanu. Human rights lawyer Aloy Ejimakor visited Nnamdi Kanu and received instructions from him to deliver a message urging the Igbo people to expand their traditional apprenticeship system to 13 states, promoting unity and economic empowerment. Analysts highlighted 4 themes from Nnamdi Kanu's message: unity building, decentralized empowerment, moving beyond tribalism, and long-term cultural influence, showing his strategic vision despite being in detention. A Nigerian living in Norway, Christopher Okonwa, submitted a letter to the International Criminal Court, ICC, accusing the Nigerian government of human rights abuses. The ICC responded with documents outlining how such cases are processed. The Paihajoki District Court introduced a previously undisclosed charge against Simon Ekpa, violation of Finland's Lawyers Act, in addition to earlier terrorism-related charges. This new charge had not been reported by any mainstream media. The indigenous people of Biafra, ipob, released a statement condemning Simon Ekpa and his self-proclaimed government in exile, BRGI, calling him a coward and imposter and denying any affiliation with his movement. The Deputy Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, USB, identified as Dr. Ngozi Orabueza, hosted a question and answer session on Twitter with over 300 participants, addressing Simon Ekpa's case and ongoing legal efforts to secure his bail in Finland. An ex-Nigerian soldier named Chibundu Daniel claimed he witnessed an impersonator representing Muhammadu Buhari during a military campaign event, suggesting a major cover-up within the Nigerian government. Finnish media outlet YLE quoted the Ministry of Justice declaring that Finland has not received any extradition request from Nigeria and would not extradite Simon Ekpa due to distrust in Nigeria's human rights record. The Finnish police confirmed that Simon Ekpa is being held at the Kilmakoski Correctional Facility and revealed that he had prior warnings about potential legal actions, suggesting he was aware and prepared for his arrest. There are moments in history that appear quiet on the surface, but are deeply stirring below. The kind of moments when distant rumblings begin to signal the possibility of justice, the return of liberty, and the long overdue vindication of those who have long been misunderstood, silenced, or caged. This may be one of such moments for two men who have shaped a generation of advocacy for the freedom of Biafra, Simon Nyoku Ekpa and Nnamdi Kanu. The events that have recently unfolded across multiple continents, from Finland to Kenya, from Norway to Nigeria, reveal a powerful convergence of legal, political, and diplomatic forces that may change the fate of both Simon Nyoku Ekpa and Nnamdi Kanu. These men have been the faces and voices of a movement that has refused to disappear despite relentless suppression, arrests, propaganda, and violent crackdowns. Their names have provoked controversy, attracted unwavering loyalty from followers, and struck fear or hatred into some quarters of the Nigerian establishment. Now, against all odds, the trajectory of their legal battles is shifting in a way that suggests something monumental is on the horizon. To fully understand the significance of what has just happened, one must go back to the root of the problem, a mixture of systemic marginalization, historical injustice, legal manipulation, and international indifference. For Nnamdi Kanu, his rearrest in Kenya in 2021 and forceful rendition to Nigeria was a flashpoint that triggered massive protests and international outcry. Many described it as a modern-day kidnapping. He had originally been granted bail in Nigeria but fled the country after the military invaded his home in Umuahia in Abia State. Years later, he resurfaced in Kenya, only to be abducted again under suspicious circumstances and brought to Nigeria in a manner that a Kenyan court has now ruled was illegal. This latest legal judgment from the Kenyan judiciary is not just a symbolic win. It has practical consequences. The court has declared unequivocally that the rendition of Nnamdi Kanu was unlawful and ordered the Kenyan government to engage diplomatically with the Nigerian government to rectify this injustice. Furthermore, the court has instructed that Nnamdi Kanu be compensated for the violation of his rights. The implications of this are immense. It means that a foreign court in a sovereign African country has now declared that the foundational basis of the case against Nnamdi Kanu in Nigeria is illegitimate. If the rendition was illegal, then every legal proceeding that followed may stand on shaky ground. Following this ruling, a high-level delegation from the Republic of Kenya was dispatched to Abuja, Nigeria's capital, for a diplomatic meeting with the Nigerian federal government. According to inside sources, the discussions are expected to focus on how to comply with the court's judgment and navigate the consequences. This is the first formal sign that the wheels of diplomacy are now turning in Nnamdi Kanu's favor. It is no longer just lawyers filing motions or supporters protesting outside embassies. A sovereign state is now on record acknowledging that an injustice has occurred and has taken steps to correct it. In the middle of all this, one man has kept his calm, vision and strategic thinking intact: Nnamdi Kanu himself. Despite being held in solitary confinement by the Department of State Services in Abuja for over 3 years, he continues to inspire and guide his people. His legal counsel, human rights lawyer Aloy Chife Ejimakor, recently visited him and came out with a powerful message. Nnamdi Kanu instructed Aloy Chife Ejimakor to deliver a specific message to the people of Igbo land, that they should expand the Igbo traditional apprenticeship system into 13 different states of Nigeria. This is a system known for fostering entrepreneurship and communal support. He sees it not just as a tool of economic empowerment, but also as a symbol of unity, shared values, and cultural revival. Political analysts and cultural scholars who studied Nnamdi Kanu's message highlighted four dominant themes. First, there was the call for unity building, urging the Igbo people not to isolate themselves but to extend their communal strength outward. Second, there was the idea of decentralized empowerment, suggesting that power should not be concentrated in political offices or governments, but in communities and individuals. Third, there was an explicit effort to move beyond tribalism, to see all people as human beings and possible allies rather than threats. Lastly, there was a deep emphasis on long-term cultural influence. Even from prison, Nnamdi Kanu is thinking beyond his personal freedom. He is planning for the future of his people, his culture, and the unborn generations. Meanwhile, far away from Nigeria, another man is fighting a different but parallel battle. Simon Njoku Ekpa, a former Finnish-trained athlete and a lawyer who now leads a pro-Biafran movement from exile, remains in detention in Finland. His arrest came in late 2024 under a cloud of legal ambiguity and public confusion. First, he was accused of inciting violence and supporting terrorism, based on his calls for sit-at-home protests in the southeastern part of Nigeria. Then, the Finnish police introduced additional charges. But just when many believed that everything had already been brought against him, a previously undisclosed charge was quietly introduced in the Pihajoki District Court, violation of Finland's Lawyers Act. This particular charge had not been reported by any mainstream media outlet, raising questions about transparency and selective coverage. According to leaked legal briefs, the charge relates to an alleged misuse of his professional legal status while operating his government in exile, known as the Biafran Republic Government in Exile. The Finnish authorities allege that Simon Njoku Ekpa blurred the lines between activism and legal representation, thereby violating the country's legal profession code. However, critics argue that the move is politically motivated and meant to silence his advocacy by any means necessary. While the Finnish court proceedings continue, support for Simon Njoku Ekpa is building up across various Biafran circles and diaspora communities. One such figure is Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, who serves as the Deputy Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, a symbolic government in exile that operates digitally across various platforms. Dr. Ngozi Orabueze hosted an online question-and-answer session on the social media platform now known as X, formerly Twitter, drawing over 300 participants. During the session, she provided updates on Simon Njoku Ekpa's legal status and ongoing efforts to secure bail. She also reaffirmed that the Biafran struggle will not end with one man's detention and that international legal frameworks are being explored to bring pressure on Finland. But not everyone in the Biafran struggle is standing united. In a shocking twist, the indigenous people of Biafra, ipob, the original movement founded by Nnamdi Kanu, released a harsh statement distancing themselves from Simon Njoku Ekpa. In the statement, ipob called him an imposter and coward, and claimed he was never authorized to speak on their behalf or operate any government in exile. This open division has sown confusion among Biafran supporters and raised questions about the future of the movement. Is there a split? Is this internal disagreement part of a larger strategy, or is it simply the result of ego, misunderstanding, or disloyalty? While this ideological civil war continues within the Biafran camp, voices from outside Nigeria have started to speak more boldly. Christopher Okenwa, a Nigerian citizen based in Norway, recently submitted a comprehensive legal complaint to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. In his letter, he accused the Nigerian government of engaging in systemic human rights abuses against Biafrans. The response from the International Criminal Court came in the form of official documents outlining the procedure for such cases, signaling that the complaint had been received and was under consideration. Another bombshell came when a former Nigerian soldier, identified as Chibundu Daniel, alleged that he had personally witnessed someone impersonating Muhammadu Buhari during a military campaign event. If true, this claim suggests a deep-level conspiracy and potential cover-up within the Nigerian military and political system. Such an allegation, though unverified, has triggered conversations across social media and independent investigative circles, with many demanding a full inquiry. Adding to the complexity of the situation, the Finnish Ministry of Justice recently made a rare statement quoted by the national media outlet YLE. The ministry confirmed that the government of Nigeria has not submitted any extradition request for Simon Njoku Ekpa. Moreover, they added that Finland is unlikely to extradite him due to the Nigerian government's poor human rights record and repeated failures to comply with international law. This is perhaps the clearest sign yet that Simon Njoku Ekpa is unlikely to be handed over to Nigeria anytime soon. The Finnish police further confirmed that Simon Njoku Ekpa is being held at the Kilmakoski Correctional Facility. Interestingly, they also revealed that he had received prior warnings about the possibility of legal actions, suggesting he was not entirely caught off guard. This information paints the picture of a man who has anticipated the backlash, planned his moves carefully, and prepared for the consequences of his advocacy. So, what do all these scattered events add up to? Are they isolated moments, or are they building towards something greater? If one looks closely, it becomes clear that a convergence is taking place. The Kenyan ruling has weakened the legal foundation of Nnamdi Kanu's imprisonment. The refusal of Finland to extradite Simon Njoku Ekpa signals a growing mistrust of Nigeria's justice system in European legal circles. The International Criminal Court is now paying attention. Even within Nigeria, insiders like Chibundu Daniel are beginning to speak out. The consequences of these developments could be historic. If Nnamdi Kanu is released, it would mark a major victory for legal integrity and human rights advocacy in Africa. If Simon Njoku Ekpa successfully defends himself in Finland and regains his freedom, it could empower a new generation of digital activists who operate beyond the reach of oppressive regimes. If the international community steps up to demand accountability from Nigeria, it could open the door for a broader re-evaluation of how Biafrans are treated by their own government. The road ahead is still filled with challenges. Legal processes move slowly, political pressure is often unpredictable, and the internal division among Biafran groups could create more harm than good if not resolved. But for now, both Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Njoku Ekpa appear to be edging closer to freedom. What began as isolated legal fights may soon become a global referendum on justice, identity, and the right of oppressed people to speak, act, and live freely. Whether or not freedom is achieved tomorrow or next year, one thing is clear: something has changed. The silence has been broken. The machinery of justice has started to move, and the world is finally watching. In the quiet corridors of diplomatic buildings in Nairobi, the well-lit halls of Finnish courts, and the somber waiting room outside Nnamdi Kanu's solitary confinement cell in Abuja, history is being made, slowly, silently, but unmistakably. The struggle continues, but for the first time in a long while, the light at the end of the tunnel no longer looks like an illusion. It looks like a door, and perhaps it is about to open. As diplomatic meetings began quietly behind closed doors in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital territory, news of the Kenyan court judgment started to spread among Biafran communities both in Nigeria and in the diaspora. For many, it was not just a legal technicality. It was a moral validation of what they had been shouting for years, that Nnamdi Kanu was a victim of international conspiracy, that his seizure in Kenya was nothing short of state-sponsored abduction, and that he had been punished not for any crime, but for daring to speak on behalf of his people. Back in Kenya, the ruling was covered modestly in the local media, but it resonated strongly among Kenyan lawyers and human rights organizations. Some groups began quietly reaching out to their Nigerian counterparts to offer support, recognizing that if rendition can happen to Nnamdi Kanu, it can happen to any African dissident whose ideas displease the political elite. The message from Kenya's judiciary was powerful and bold. The rule of law must be respected, even in the face of pressure from foreign governments. At the center of this international story stood Nnamdi Kanu himself, still locked up in the detention cell of the Department of State Services headquarters in Abuja. Despite his isolation, he was not silent. Those who visited him, especially Aloy Chife Ejimakor, came away with messages that were less about bitterness or revenge and more about strategy, foresight, and communal healing. The call to expand the Igbo apprenticeship system into 13 Nigerian states was deeply symbolic. It was Nnamdi Kanu saying, in effect, "If you silence my voice, my people will still grow. If you cage my body, our culture will still rise." This message was received with excitement in cities like Onitsha, Aba, Enugu, and even as far as Kaduna, Lagos, and Ilorin, where many Igbo communities have made homes over decades. Small traders, young apprentices, business leaders, and elders began discussing how to practically implement this expansion. The vision was no longer only about secession or self-determination. It was about building a self-reliant, economically strong, culturally confident people who could thrive even in hostile systems. In many ways, Nnamdi Kanu was redefining the meaning of Biafra, not just as a geographical homeland, but as an economic, spiritual, and cultural idea. Yet, while this evolution was taking place, tension within the Biafran movement itself reached a boiling point. The official statement released by the indigenous people of Biafra denouncing Simon Nyoku Ekpa was more than just a press release. It was a declaration of internal war. The statement described Simon Nyoku Ekpa as an imposter, an opportunist exploiting the Biafran dream for his personal agenda, and someone whose actions were bringing unnecessary hardship to the people of the southeast. Supporters of Simon Nyoku Ekpa quickly fired back online. They claimed that the leadership of the indigenous people of Biafra had been infiltrated, weakened, and was now out of touch with the movement's realities. In pro-Simon Nyoku Ekpa forums and encrypted chat groups, participants began asking difficult questions. Who truly represents Biafra now? Can there be more than one path toward liberation? Or is this just the usual story of division weakening another African cause? Dr. Ngozi Orabueze attempted to bring some clarity during her Twitter-hosted town hall. She carefully navigated the political minefield, refusing to directly attack the indigenous people of Biafra, while also reaffirming the legitimacy of the United States of Biafra government in exile. She described Simon Nyoku Ekpa as a misunderstood leader, someone who had never denied the foundational work of Nnamdi Kanu, but had been forced to operate independently because of institutional failures. Her words calmed some, but inflamed others. While these debates raged on social media, the legal battle in Finland took a more dramatic turn. Finnish legal analysts began expressing concern that the case against Simonjoku Ekpa was becoming unusually politicized. A legal scholar from the University of Helsinki, Professor Aleksi Vuorinen, noted during a television interview that the Finnish government must be careful not to allow foreign political interests to dictate its justice system. He cited the surprise introduction of the charge relating to the Lawyers Act as a potential sign of legal overreach. If a lawyer is being punished for activism while maintaining compliance with national law, then the boundaries of free speech are being dangerously narrowed, he warned. This concern was shared by civil rights groups in Finland and Sweden. A few began issuing formal letters to the Finnish Ministry of Justice, asking for transparency and caution in handling the case. One particularly strong letter came from the European Alliance for Stateless Peoples, which noted that the Biafran situation, though controversial, cannot be resolved through the criminalization of political dissent. They reminded Finnish authorities that their country had long been a sanctuary for peaceful political dialogue and must not set a precedent of cracking down on exiled voices. In Nigeria, however, the mainstream media was largely silent about these developments. The television stations focused on political rallies and celebrity gossip. Newspapers buried updates about Nnamdi Kanu's case in the inside pages. This silence was not accidental. Multiple sources within the Nigerian journalism community revealed that editorial boards had been quietly warned to avoid giving prominence to Biafra-related news unless it framed the movement as criminal or violent. This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.